HiRevz Media is sponsored by Born to Ride Motorcycle Magazine. Check out borntoride.com. Alright guys, so messing around with the Fiat today. Got a little story for you about the HEI module here. This is essentially just a GM HEI module that goes on here, which is a pretty great idea to use. And a lot of guys use these hot rodding. They'll mount these on a separate plate and use a magnetic pickup in a distributor, any kind, wire this in, use a coil, and pretty good idea. So that's exactly what Fiat did here with this aluminum block and the wires going in behind there. That's the actual module back inside here. So you got to remove the coil, and then it's just back in there with a couple screws. Take all that out, and easy to replace, very simple. But the issue that I was having was that on the timing marks on here, you've got your timing tab here. So right there is your timing mark. So the big one at the top is 0. That's 0 degrees, top dead center. One, and next to it is 5. The one down at the very bottom is 10. So that's 10 degrees before top dead center. So it's 10 degrees advanced. A lot of manuals say to run these at 10. So really they want to run about 16 to 18 at initial timing on here, and that's the issue. So I would set this thing where it would fire up easy, where it would run 16, 18 at initial, and it would be fine. Well, I'd start driving and it would only rev up to about 4 grand. It wouldn't rev up past that. So I was trying to get it to go, and it was like, ah! I mean, it run into like just a dead stop, like almost like it had a rev limiter on it. And then I got an advanced timing light on it, really started checking it, because all that was kind of by ear, which it works really good with these, but started checking it with a timing light, and this one is at idle, and then this is at about 3 grand, and the timing actually dropped down. What I did is I advanced it up enough to make it run right, which is about 38 degrees of initial, which is incorrect. And it would be very, very hard to start. I mean, I mean, you'd barely get it to start, and it'd finally crank up, and very rough on the starter, and you get running down the road, and then by the time you got to top end, it was kind of dying off. And that's because the timing was not advancing, the timing was retarding. So this is the way the motor turns. So when you advance it, you actually counterclockwise it. Okay, so when you're retarding the timing, you turn it with it. You're turning it away from it because it's spinning this way. If you want to advance it, you spin it closer to the way that it's spinning. So it's counterclockwise. So got that figured out. Made sure my weights were working right. Everything in here is good. This is a fairly new, and I say fairly new, it's a few years old, but it's a VIX one. And the vacuum advance has died on it. Just the diaphragm has gotten old and cracked in here just from really sitting around. This thing had sit for a long time before I bought it. The guy that had it just drove it very little here and there. So everything was running and driving fine. So I called Matt Vix Auto, and he sent me out a brand new one of these to put on here. So we've got that to put on there, because that's one of the things we noticed was weird, and really talking with him, trying to figure out what is this thing doing. And it was just crazy. And ended up just replacing the module. That's the old module that was in here. The module that I replaced it with is actually the HEI module that I pulled out of that 90 model Mustang that we built last time. And I put the Pertronics in. This is the module out of that, where I took the Pertronics out of it. So this one's in here now, and that fixed it. I mean, instantly fixed the problem. Then I could set my initial at about 16, 18, somewhere right in there. And it's running all the way up to about 40 degrees before top dead center. So it's advancing the correct way. The weights are slinging out, everything's advancing, everything's working correctly. I have never ever heard of a module going bad in so much that it starts to reading the advance and doing it backwards. It was retarding the timing, which is just really, really crazy. Still ran okay, still did fine. It was just retarding timing so much that you were after top dead center by the time you got up high in the RPM. So it was running like a dog at the very top end. It was only running good between like 1 and 4,000 RPM. Well, now it's running all the way up to 7 grand, like it should, nice and smooth all the way through. It's advancing correctly, which is good. So now I just got to get the vacuum advance here switched out. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to pull the cap off. I'm going to mark right where my rotor button is, and then mark where it turns to as I pull it out, so I can put it right back in and let it turn back to where it's going to go. So everything stays the same, and then I'm going to go through pulling this out. All right, guys, so I've got the cap off here. So our rotor button is pointing this way, so I'm going to make a little mark directly down here, and when I pull it out, when it turns, I'm going to mark right where it turns to, so I'll know where to start at when I put it back in. This is the wrench the guy I got it from gave me with it. This is an 11/16, which I'm sure is metric for something, but he ground this thing down all the way around it to make it fit, because it's very hard to get to this hold down bolt up under here. So, but luckily he gave me the wrench with it, so that he made, so that works. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark this, and then I'm gonna loosen it up and get it pulled out. All right, guys, so I've got it pulled up, and you can see it turned from there, there's my little mark, to here. So I'm gonna put another mark here so I know to put it back in there, let it swing back around. All right, guys, the distributor is out, and there's the 3 screws that have to come off the bottom. There's little bolts there. Pull those out, and then we can see about how to get that off. May have to raise the plate up in order to do that. So let's see if we can get the rest way off. All right, guys, that is super simple. So it just sits on that little ball right there. You actually don't have to take anything else off. That just snaps up in there. So that is perfect. Snap the new one down, put the 3 screws in, drop it back in. All right, guys, so here's the new Vacuum Advance Mako Real Magneti Marelli, made in Turkey, not Italy. Most parts are not being made in Italy these days. But this is good. So it's original type one that goes on here. So this is from Vic Auto. So again, I want to thank them for sending me this and helping me out. So there it is. There's the new one. Very simple design. So we'll get that snap back on there. Should be good to go. All right, guys, so here's the new one and here's the old one. And what I've done is adjusted this out to make it the same as the one I'm taking off. I don't know if that's correct or if I should have left it alone or what, but it seems like the right thing to do to make sure these are the same. So I adjusted that to about the same distance as the other one. So we'll try that out and make sure it's gonna work. All right, guys, get the new one screwed down on there and then popped it in place. Got my mark lined back up, and should be ready to rock. Get the hold down nut back on, and then put the cap back on and adjust it back out. All right, guys, so here's a good way to test that with just a vacuum, and then we're gonna watch this, see if it pulls it in and see if it holds a vacuum. You can actually hear it sucking. So it's not pulling this in, and it's not building any vacuum at all. So that one's doing nothing. So if I stick it on the new one now, can actually watch the advance come around. So watch this. Get a vacuum on there. See it pulling it? It don't move much. You'll see it. Yeah, it's holding the vacuum now, so that all that's good. And pull it off. You see it jump back just a little bit. It doesn't move much. But that one's working. This one's not, so that fixes that problem. So we'll just get it tightened up. All right, guys, so now I've got the advanced timing light hooked up. This thing is awesome. I'll give y'all a link to this thing in the description from Amazon. What's nice, you got your tachometer here. You don't have to have somebody inside. You don't have to trust it. You don't have to have the well meter out here, anything like that. You can run all that from here, and then I can set my full total advance. So if I set it at 38 here and I rev it up, right now, the mark will be on the 0 mark on the timing mark. So it'll be at top dead center because I'm actually at 38. So you can read everything off the top dead center, but read whatever timing you want to read, which is perfect. About 38, 40 of full advance when I'm revving this up above 3 grand. So that's what I'm really looking for. Revving up above 3 grand, checking it, make sure it's at 0, but it's 38 here. Same thing is I can check right now, initial advance, just bump this down, and then when I get down near my timing mark, I can see exactly where I'm running at initially, and that's right at 20 degrees initial, and my mark is right on the 0. And it's really hard for y'all to see that in the camera here because of the timing on the camera lens. But anyways, the initial really doesn't matter much at all. You really want to get it sounding about right, idling about right. Right now, this is perfect. Everything's fine, and it's revving up to about 38, which is good. So that's really where we want to keep it. Initial doesn't matter much. Revving it out and seeing where we're going to be. And all of that is done with the vacuum off. And at idle, the vacuum does nothing. The vacuum comes into play midway. You can actually hook that up and check that and see where it's running. Make sure the vacuum's pulling in and all that stuff too. But everything looks like it's good. All right, guys, one more thing I wanted to show you was that these motors, at least the 2 liters, they need to be timed off of number 4. So I've got this down here at spark plug number 4, okay, cylinder number 4, and that's really where you want to time them off of. That's where all the timing marks come in. Everything, one technically works because they're both the top dead center, but it's not in the firing spot. So it gives you a little weird number. 4 is the best. Now the vacuum's hooked up, and now watch this. I'm gonna rev it up just a little bit, and you'll be able to see that move. See it moving in? You can see it start to pull it in, and because of that, it's advancing it now when I'm revving it up. So it's giving me a little bit more timing right where I need it. So it's actually revving up a little bit better too because of that. So, but this thing is running like a top now. Definitely feels better at mid-throttle. I can tell by just giving it a little bit of throttle, it's got a little more power. It's probably burning a little better fuel because it's advancing the timing correctly, and should get a little better fuel mileage now at cruising speed. But it actually feels like it's got a little bit more power in that mid-range where you're just barely in the throttle than it did before. But it's definitely revving out and running much better. right, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. But I wanted to thank Vic Auto Sports again for sending me that, helping me out with the info, and Matt, I appreciate it. So it was awesome. Called him up and talked to him for a little bit and helped me out, get it figured right. So there we go. Appreciate y'all sponsoring the video. Gonna get a little sticker under the hood. So awesome.
Time to get out and play. AMSOIL delivers the ultimate protection for your vehicles and equipment. Fast, free shipping right to your door. Spend $100 and shipping is on us. Order now at AMSOIL.com.